Hello and welcome to this very quick video on Nazi policies towards women. So this is part of key topic area 4, so life in Nazi Germany between 1933 and 1939. And we're going to look at how the role of women changed during this period of time, so when the Nazis were in power. So let's start by summarising what we're going to look at. So the first thing we're going to look at is Nazi policies towards women, so what their aims were, the 3 Ks, views towards marriage and the family, women and employment opportunities and how that might have changed, and then finally their appearance, so what Nazis expected women to look like. So look at some key words to start with. So the first is stereotype. So stereotype is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea, and they had that about women. They also expected them to be these pure German people, so these Aryan people. Now this idea of Lebensborn, which is very strange, where unmarried women were impregnated by SS men. And finally, Kinder, Kutsche, Kirche, so this idea of children, kitchen and church, which pretty much summed up the idea of womanhood for Nazis. So let's start by looking at women in Weimar Germany. So this is before the Nazis. So the first thing we need to think about is actually there were plenty of new opportunities for women in Weimar Germany. And this could be seen by the fact that women were treated as equal citizens. So they're given these equal rights in Germany. You can see by the fact they get the right to vote. So Weimar is trying to be a very democratic society, so women have the right to vote. But actually there is some debate over whether life did actually improve, because actually, while on the surface it looked like they did, maybe it didn't as much as people actually think. So now let's look at Nazi policies towards women. So the idea was that they would stay at home. So it's women's role to stay at home. And the reason for that is it's their job to look after the family. And they want women to have as many children as they possibly can. Hitler wants to increase the Third Reich, the Nazi state, so he wants lots of soldiers and lots of children to do that. And finally, they expected them to dress in a very traditional fashion. Now, let's look at the 3 Ks, and we'll start with this quote at the bottom. So Goebbels said the mission of women is to be beautiful and bring children into the world. And that pretty much sums up the Nazi ideas of what they expected from women. So they expected from them Kinder, so the idea of children. They want them to have as many children as possible. Church, they want them to go to church, although there is some debate about how Hitler actually changed the church. And finally, Kutsche, so their places in the kitchen, preparing the meals for the men. So this very traditional role for women. So in terms of marriage and the family, Hitler wanted a higher birth rate. So what he does is he encouraged people to get married. So they introduce the law for the encouragement of marriage. So they're giving financial incentives to families to actually get married. They also give out this mother's cross. So the more children you have, the better, and you're awarded for having lots and lots of children. And finally, this strange idea of allowing women to volunteer to have a baby for an Aryan member of the SS. So a very strange idea for us, but that was, he wanted as many children as possible. So women in employment. So there was actually the introduction of the law for reduction of employment. So they wanted to reduce the amount of women in work. They'd already removed them from the statistics, if you remember, from how they wanted to reduce unemployment. They are banned from serving in the military. So Hitler's putting lots of money in terms of conscription, but actually women aren't involved in that. However, because the economy starts to improve and there's more jobs created, actually employment for women rose. So Hitler didn't really achieve his aims in terms of getting women out of the workplace. Now their appearance, women were expected to emulate this traditional German peasant, so plain peasant costumes. Their hair was supposed to be in plaits or buns and flat shoes, and no makeup, and discouraged from staying slim. They wanted women with childbearing hips, so they wanted women who were physically fit but certainly not slim, because they were supposed to have as many children as possible. So the key ideas here is that women's place was in the home. And they wanted to increase the size of the German population. So how might we actually apply that? So here's an example from the Germany papers. The first question is worth 4 marks. So it's a source. It's Nazi poster published in 1937. So the poster was published with the caption, "The Nazi Party protects the national community." What you've got to do, it says, give 2 things you can infer from the source about family life in Nazi Germany. And you're going to get this thing here where it says, what can you infer? And then details from the source. And you'll get that twice because you're going to get 4 marks. So 1 for inference, 1 for example. So here we've got inference and example. So I've got some examples here. So the mother was of great importance to the family in Nazi Germany. The mother is shown in the very centre of the poster feeding the baby. So we've given an example from the source. The Nazis encouraged married couples to have large families. Example from the source, there are 4 children. Members of the family had specific roles. So this is a girl holding a baby doll. So again, there's 3 examples here. What you'd be providing is just 2 examples that are backed up with evidence from that actual source. Okay, thank you very much for listening.